Welcome. I'm the White Rabbit Witch. Join me and tap the subscribe button below. Now, let's step into today's story.
Do you still keep a doll next to your bed? If so, you might want to turn it away before hearing this story. This tale isn't written in any book. No one recorded it. It was only whispered, from mothers to daughters, from the living to accursed. A story that never leaves your mind, a name that lingers before you fall asleep, and a pair of eyes that keep watching you, even when no one else sees them. Tonight's tale by the White Rabbit Witch, The Cursed Doll, begins now. People say dolls are cute. We sleep with them when we're young, and when we grow up, we display them on shelves. But some dolls, no one knows who made them, or why they still remain. They simply exist. And this one was just like that. They had been empty for a long time. Every door creaked when it moved. The basement was damp and cold. On the first day we cleaned it, I noticed something odd about the wall. One brick, just one, was missing, and behind it, a small doll was looking at me. She was covered in dust, but her expression was strangely calm. Her hands rested neatly on her lap, and her faded lace dress looked like something from an old funeral. But her eyes were wrong. They didn't hold any light. You couldn't measure how deep they were. They didn't look like a doll's eyes at all. More like tiny windows where someone was staring out from inside. I knew the moment I touched her. She was cold, colder than a windowsill in winter. So cold it stung my fingers. And then I heard a whisper, "Don't look at me." It was soft, right at my ear. Someone had clearly spoken, but there was no one there. After that, I wrapped the doll in a towel, put her carefully in a box, and placed it high on the bookshelf in my room. Why did I do that? I'm not sure. I just felt like saying anything about her would make something hear me. That night, I had a dream. It was the basement, but the lights were off, and even the air didn't move. The doll was still there, but this time, she was as tall as me, and she wasn't inside the wall. She stood in front of it, looking right at me. Slowly, she raised the corners of her lips and smiled. She was smiling, truly smiling. And when I woke up, cold sweat had soaked my back. The room was quiet, but on the shelf, the box was slightly open. Since that day, the doll never came down from the bookshelf. At least, not during the day. The house was filled with a strange smell, a scent that felt like time, untouched for years. They said the place we moved into used to be a battlefield. Broken stone walls at the edge of the yard, faint scorch marks beneath the windowsill, all of it old, but never erased. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I don't know why, but I couldn't fall asleep. Then, a tapping sound. from the bookshelf. I got up and looked around the room. No wind. The window was closed, but the box, that box, was on the floor. It had opened, empty, and it was empty. The doll was gone. My heart dropped. Did I place it wrong? Maybe it bounced when it fell. I searched the room carefully, but the doll was nowhere. Then I saw it. The doll was on my desk, staring at me. It didn't make sense. I had put it on the bookshelf, inside a closed box. But now, there she was, on top of my desk, next to my notebook, beneath the soft glow of my study lamp, her head slightly tilted, as if watching me. After that day, strange things started happening more often. The hallway light flickered every night. The living room clock kept stopping around 2 a.m. Mom looked exhausted. Dad dismissed everything. It's just an old house. Probably the humidity. Don't overthink it. So I said nothing. I knew no one would believe me. That night, I had another dream. This time, it wasn't the basement. It was the house, our own hallway and living room. The doll was sitting on the living room sofa, and each time I passed by, she turned her head, so slowly. Only when I looked away, I felt eyes on my back. But whenever I turned around, she was still, like nothing had changed. In the morning, she willow. The box was under the desk, but the doll was much closer than where I last saw her. And in that moment, I knew the doll was moving. In the morning, I put the doll back in the box. This time, I taped it shut tightly and stacked a few heavy dictionaries on top. Still, the unease didn't go away. Where did the doll come from? No one else in the house seemed to care. So I decided to find out on my own. The village library held only a few old newspaper archives. I flipped through the pages, and one article caught my eye. September 1951, farmhouse fire. Entire family of 4 dead. Only one item found at the scene, an unburned doll. The photo was in black and white. But when I looked closely, I was certain it was the same doll. The next day, I took a bus to an old cemetery on the outskirts of town. It was near the address listed in the article. A narrow path, buried in fallen leaves, led to a rusted iron gate. Beyond it stood a row of small, weathered headstones. In front of one of them, a doll had been placed. It looked exactly like mine. Faded colors, a frayed ribbon tied around its hand. At that moment, someone behind me spoke. That doll, it's been here before. It was an old woman, small, thin, wearing a wrinkled windbreaker. She looked at the photo I held and slowly shook her head. You can throw it away, but it always comes back. Someone takes it, and it returns. I asked her softly, Do you know whose it was? She didn't answer right away. Then she pointed at a grave. No name, just a single sentence carved into the stone. This child never came back. When I got home, I opened the box again and took the doll out. Its face hadn't changed, but something in the eyes felt sharper, clearer. It felt like she had been waiting for someone to hear her story. That night, there was a strange smell in my room. It was unmistakable. Something was burning, like the sharp sting of a just-struck match, light but piercing. I checked the kitchen. The boiler was off. The windows were locked. Still, the smell kept spreading through my room. Something had quietly begun. When I turned toward the desk, the doll was sitting on the windowsill. It had moved. I was sure of it. But worse than that, behind the doll, a blackened scorch mark had appeared on the wall, charred and dry, as if a fire had just passed through. When I stepped closer, I saw ash clinging to the doll's fingertips, and the moment I reached out, the window slammed shut behind me. There hadn't been a breeze, but the sound was sudden, sharp, right at my back. I spun around in panic, and there it was. No longer on the windowsill, but right at my feet. The doll tilted its head upward and stared straight into my eyes. Its mouth opened. No sound came out, but from deep within, a dark mist began to spill. The smoke slithered along the ceiling, creeping down the wall, until it revealed something. A burned family photo. The faces inside. Their eyes were erased, their mouths torn wide open. I backed away until my heels hit the wall. And then the doll caught fire. Flames burst out of its tiny frame. The room warped. Reality bent. And in the smoke, someone was laughing. Then came the voice. This place has to burn too. Everything went black. When I woke up, I was outside, gasping for air, my hands and feet covered in dirt. And my house, it was on fire. Flames danced through the windows. The roof collapsed. I looked for them. Mom, Dad. No one was there. I stood frozen, watching my home burn. Then, something brushed against my leg. I looked down, and there it was, the doll, laughing. That horrible, high-pitched giggle, just for me. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in a place I recognized. Strangers were moving around the room, carrying boxes, hanging curtains, filling the air with laughter. Their faces were unfamiliar, but they all looked happy. Among them, a little girl walked slowly toward me. She reached out her hand and said softly, "Wow, what a pretty doll." That's when I realized I couldn't move. My body was stiff and small. My eyes didn't blink. My mouth wouldn't open. I had become a doll. must have passed. They had rebuilt a house on top of the one that burned down. And now, someone new had moved in. Fresh paint on the walls, toys scattered on the floor, smiling people all around. And when that girl held me tight against her chest, I heard a voice inside my head. This time, you get to play the